Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This is Mo Perspective. I missed you guys. I've been so busy lately. You know what's crazy is that as soon as I started taking these classes, everybody and their mama want to call me and text and have conversations, and people want to visit and things like that. And it's just so interesting because before that, not many people called my phone. I didn't get many text messages. It'd be crickets over here. Okay, we live a very solitudinal, if that's a word, life. So I just find it interesting that now that I've got things to do, I'm mentoring somebody. I'm really active in my HOA right now, among some other things. And so it's like now that I've got all of these things going and I want to focus in on, some of my other ventures, I got a lot of people wanting to reach out. And I don't know if that's a tactic of the enemy or what, but I'm not going to let it knock me off my rocker. I'm going to stay the course, stay focused, and do what it is that I got to do in order to continue providing a great lifestyle for me and my child. But anyways, we had Juneteenth, right? Shout out to Juneteenth. And so on Saturday, Drew Hill and who else was coming? Two other acts, famous people, was going to be performing free in Newport News for the Freedom Festival. And so we got all dressed. It started at 3. I was out gardening, and we got dressed I got done gardening around 2:30. And so around 5 o'clock, we left the house because it ended at 8. So I'm like, Drew Hill's going to be the last act. I'm going to be able to see him. Man, as soon as we got off the highway, they have it all blocked off and cordoned off, and you have to go down 25th Street, I think, all the way down to where the water is. So after finding parking, well, before that, on the way down, as soon as we got off the highway, there was a big Jumbotron sign that said, Freedom Fest at full capacity, not letting anybody else in. I said to myself, who gonna check me, boo, right? So we finally found parking 20 minutes later, and we started walking, and we see all these people leaving from the area. And I could hear people saying, they're really not letting people in. I said, they really not letting people in? They not letting people in. You could try, but they not letting you in. So I kept walking and hoping, maybe, either way, I'm getting my steps in, right? So me and my son are walking, still keep seeing people. And they were warning, like, look, they're not. I said, well, even if people are leaving, they're not letting people. I said, even when people are leaving, they are not letting new people in. I said, you got to be kidding me. So me and my son just kind of was like, dang, what are we going to do? Well, let's go eat, right? It's the only thing to do. So we ended up going online, looking at movies and saying, ooh, let's go see Karate Kid. So of course I'm telling him about Karate Kid as a kid. I loved Ralph Macchio, and it was just such a great movie or whatever. Hopefully this one will be good. I'm gonna tell you this: the trailer does not do the movie justice. That movie was awesome. That movie was phenomenal. I recommend everybody to go see Karate Kid Legends. The storyline, the acting, the fighting. Jackie Chan is in it, right? His role was hilarious. Oh my gosh. And then Ralph Macchio came in. And then at the very end, well, I don't want to spoil it, but very, very, very good. The boy that played Connor Day, the arch nemesis of the main character, that boy is fine. He reminds me of Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I always had a crush on Anthony Kiedis, even though he's a little wackadoodle. Probably all those years of drug use. But anyways, he reminds me of Anthony Kiedis. That boy was fine. And he did some amazing acting. And I always look at these people and I'm like, did you guys grow up doing karate? Is that why you guys are so good? But the whole movie was amazing. And so we left the movie theater. And, well, it was either before or after the movie theater. No, it was after the movie theater. Something reminded me of my grandmother. And me and my son got to talking about my granny. Because I'm trying my best to plant the seeds of history and where I come from and the lineage from where he comes from. Because I think we're talking about like age. Oh, this is how it got started. So my Auntie Georgie turned like 92 or 93. But my Uncle Ike was 102 and he just passed a month ago, right? And so, and my grandfather on my mom's side as well died when he was 93 or 94. So I was telling my son, yeah, I said, you know, we have a long lineage. We have a lineage of people that live very long in our family. But the one thing that all of these people had in common, son, is their belief in God. I said, that's one thing that has sustained them, you know? And so I got to talking about my granny and how much I love my granny and how my granny was just the mess. Like my granny was the ish. Like she spoiled me to death. If it wasn't for her, I would not be here today. My granny taught me so much and she spoiled me, I think because I was the firstborn, you know, her first grandchild. And so she spoiled me like crazy. And so I ended up telling my son, because my son is really good at asking follow-up questions. Like sometimes I don't be thinking he be listening to me, which he don't. But sometimes he gets intrigued and interested and he'll ask follow-up questions. So he asked me something about my granny and I ended up telling him about the time where how much how much my granny spoiled me, because he was like, spoiled how? Like, what do you mean? And so I told him of all the things that she would do, like how I was always over at her house, how she would buy our school clothes, winter clothes, whatever we needed, we had. And so I shared with him the story of one Christmas where there were tons of presents under the tree in our house. And the morning of, when me and my sister got up to go and open up the presents, there were no presents there. They were all gone because my parents had smoked them up. They opened it up, sold them, got dope, and that was that, right? But let me tell you, when we got to our granny's house, it was as if that meant nothing. She had probably twice as many toys and gifts and things like that under the tree. My granny really, really looked out for us, and not just in a material way. My granny taught me life lessons, right? So in the midst of that, he asked me about my other grandparents, my dad's mom. And I said, well, my dad's mom, she ended up dying of diabetes earlier than, you know, than we would have wanted to or whatever. I said, but I wasn't really close to her. I didn't know her like that. I didn't even know her favorite color. I didn't know her birthday. I didn't even know her real name was her name until she died. Because we called her mommy, grandma mommy. So I was telling him that. And I said, as a matter of fact, she didn't really do anything for us, you know? And so we went back to talking about Karate Kid. And God put it on me. Well, actually, because we were in the driveway on the way in the house at this point. And I was convicted just that quick. I said, oh my gosh. I said, you know what, son? I take that back. I said, my grandmother, my dad's mom did do stuff for me. I said, all of the movies from the 80s, we watched at her house. Karate Kid, that's where I saw Karate Kid over and over and over again. Golden Child, Coming to America, Gremlins, Goonies, Stand By Me. All of my granny had all of the tapes. Everything, whatever you wanted, she had. That's what we would watch. Wrestling on Saturdays, and she would sit in the dining room, and she had a window, so she would just sit there with her Seagram's gin with the green top. She would unscrew the green top. It was either green or gold, and she would pour her liquor into the cap and then just sip it while smoking her cigarettes and watching us through the window. So my parents could drop us, all the cousins, and this is when I got to spend time with all my cousins. The best time of my life as a kid was with my freaking cousins, okay? And my grandmother lived on the street in Emerald Hills, San Diego. And they would drop us off and we'd be there all day running havoc. And my grandpa, who was actually my step grandfather, would have a ton of change in his pockets all the time. And he would just sit there and just jingle it in his dickies, right? And he would give us change, and we would go down the street to the candy lady, buy up all the candy we want, drinking from the hose outside, just good times. And my grandmother, she didn't cook many different meals, but she did cook a pot of chili that was always on the stove. There was always chili available for us. And it's a very distinct taste of that chili that I will never ever taste again, because it was something that she did to it that made it different and special. And so I had to correct myself. I even had to tell my son, I said, son, I'm wrong. My granny did, even though my grandmother wasn't close to me and she didn't do things with me one on one, she literally couldn't. She had 5 children, and all of her children had children. But I think I was always resentful of the fact that some of the cousins got to live with her and we couldn't, because during the times when life was really, really rough and my parents were doing their thing and I didn't have any food to eat, I couldn't run to her. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't, so I was harboring resentment for that. But I released that now, because when I look back on it, she did what she could. She did what she could. And maybe those other kids that were able to stay with her from time to time needed it more than I did. But at the end of the day, I believe it made me stronger and made me who I am, especially when I look at everything that I've been able to accomplish since then. But my grandmother, she did do things. She provided a safe environment for all of her grandkids to get together and have fun. And that's what I'm going to remember from now on, rather than what she didn't do or the fact that I wasn't close to her. I'm going to hold on to the fact that she provided a safe place for us to come and play and hang out, and that she was available for my parents when they wanted to go drinking and drugging and partying. We could come over there and hang out and chill. So that gave them a break, which in turn made things easier for us because they weren't, burnt out, because they had somewhere that they could take us, So I'm just so glad that my relationship with the Most High is where it is, because He is revealing things to me, and I'm learning to put my pride and my ego and my envy away and be grateful for the things that I have and the things that I had in the past, because at the end of the day, it's what made me who I am today. But anyways, guys, go check out Karate Kid. Great movie. Highly recommend it for adults and kids. Take your kids. Great lessons. Great fight scenes. It was just a really, really good, entertaining, funny parts. All of that. Go check it out. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.